Hello, my name is Reuel Barksdale. Today I'm at AT&T. My personal mission in life is to help organizations and individuals to move from where they are to where they want to be, to move from good to great. Join us today as we spend time with the employees at AT&T.
I'm reminded of a story of I think it was an AT&T executive. Yeah. And at this executive's house, this AT&T executive, she had an Olympic-sized swimming pool in the back of her yard. And she and her husband had determined that her daughter was about 22. Her daughter, it was time for her to get married. Now, the daughter didn't have anything to say with this, but they were those kinds of people. And so they decided, well, how can we find somebody courageous enough, brave enough, articulate enough, with enough integrity to marry our daughter? So they said, all right, we'll set up something. We'll set up a test. And they put the ad in the newspaper. They wanted people that were brave, courageous, had integrity, had values, had attitude, that would enable them to be successful. And they had 100 people sign up. And this is what they did. They lined these 100 guys up by their Olympic-sized swimming pool. And they had filled the pool with alligators and crocodiles. And they said, whoever can swim from this end of the pool to the other end of the pool can have our daughter's hand in marriage. Now, if you don't want that, you can have $1 million cash, no questions asked. If you don't want that, you can have real estate all over the world. Well, before they could finish talking, there was a splash in the pool. And before you knew it, somebody was climbing out of the other end of the pool, and they were tired, and they were breathing heavy, and the mother and the husband, they were excited. They ran up to the young man and said, young man, you must have bravery, and you must have values. You must. What do you want? Do you want the $1 million in cash? And the young man said, no, sir. He said, oh, okay. Not concerned with money. Do you want the land all over? And he said, no, sir. They were happy. They had honestly found the right person. And so they said, do you want the hand of our daughter in marriage? And the man said, no, sir. They were complex. They were perplexed. What do you want? I want the name of the fool that pushed me in that pool. and sometimes it seems like somebody has pushed us in a pool of change and a pool of uncertainty. And there were things that we grew up with thinking that we could depend on, and they're not there. How many of you grew up in an area where you didn't have to lock your doors at night? You know, or you could take the Coda bus from the east side to the west side, the north side to the south side at 8, 9, 10 years old and not worry about it. Or you could walk the streets at night and everybody in the family knew you, so everybody in the community knew you as family, so it was okay. Those days long gone. Or where we could have political debate and people wouldn't be trying to kill you. Well, I don't know if that's changed or not. But people wouldn't be trying to kill you at a political rally because you voted for a particular bill. Things have changed. And the question is, how do we, in the context of a corporation, in the context of a society, how do we manage that change and make it work for us and not against us? How do we create the kind of society that we want to live in? That's what I'd like to talk to you about today. The great philosopher Voltaire said that no snowflake in an avalanche ever feels responsible. No snowflake in an avalanche ever feels responsible. And so when we look at an unemployment rate of 10.4, we ask, who's responsible for that? Who's responsible? Leadership costs. Leadership is not free. And in our lives, we have a tendency to look at leaders as people that we almost vilify. I don't know of anybody today that would feel comfortable in running for public office. Why would you do that? And even if it's not public office, if you're a manager, if you're a supervisor, if you're a director, if you're the head of your family, you're going to have to make decisions that sometimes aren't popular. And sometimes you're going to have to make decisions that cost you. But real leadership costs. One of the things that we need in our society today, if we're going to move from where we are to where we want to be, if we're going to move from being a good society to a great society, we have to have leadership. But leadership does not require title. My point. When we look at leadership, too often we think that in order to lead, we have to have position. We have to have title, or we have to be elected. That is not true. Leadership is defined by the ability to move, to encourage, to motivate a group or an individual from where they are to where they could be. Now, if you call yourself a leader and nobody is following you, you're just taking a walk. You're not leading. But if you have the ability to influence, and now think in your mind, how many people do you influence in your family? That makes you a leader. How many people do you influence in the workplace? That makes you a leader. How many people could you influence in your society? That makes you a leader, but leadership costs. And some of the people that you put on that board, it costs them their life. And it cost them their life even if they didn't have power in terms of title, in terms of position, in terms of elected office. If this country is going to move from where it is to where it could be, we need leaders. And we need leaders that don't have position, that don't have title, that aren't in elected office. I want you to respond to a question. On your piece of paper, this is what I'd like you to write down. I'd like you to think with me of a situation where you have just gone to the doctor, and the doctor has told you you have 3 weeks to live, and I was supposed to tell you 2 weeks ago. That's pretty bad right there. I mean, that's what you're gonna slap your doctor bad. You have 3 weeks to live. I was supposed to tell you 2 weeks ago. At that point in your life, I'd like you to write down what's important to you. What are you thinking about? Who are you thinking about? What is critical to you? Let's just take a few minutes to write that down. Okay, so is this how many of you wrote something that dealt with family, faith, friends? By show of hands, Rachel. Stephen Covey says he's asked that question on every continent of the world. And the answer is always the same. At the end of the day, that's what's important to us. Faith, family, and friends. Now, we are frustrated because that's not where we have a tendency to spend our time. And sometimes we wake up and we're stressed and we don't even know why, because there's a disconnect between what we pursue physically and what we desire emotionally and mentally. Faith, family, and friends sometimes get squeezed out. I don't have time to go to little Johnny's baseball game. I got work to do. And yet, if that is something that we share, we're more similar than we are different. I would even suggest to you, I'm going to argue this a little bit further, I would suggest to you that you can't tell anything about anybody based on the way they look. Okay, all right, let me argue that. Let's say that you take a baby born in China to Chinese parents, right? And at 2 weeks old, you take that baby and give that baby Mormon parents and move that baby to Utah. When that child is 21 years old, what will their religion be? What will their value system be? What kind of food will they like? And yet you will look at that baby and you'll say, no, that's just the package that the baby was born in. We are shaped by a socialization process that is more determined by our environment than our genetic structure. And yet we judge each other, and you don't know what my grandparents were teaching me. You don't know what school I went to. You don't know what my coach taught me. If this country is going to move from good to great, if our lives are going to move from good to great, at some point we have to realize that an eye for an eye leaves all of us blind. And there is a redemptive power. There is something great about being able to say, I know what you did to me was wrong, but I will be better than that. I will forgive you. But you can't let anybody else define who you are, because they will always define you too small. Because there's so much in you that they can't see, even when they love you. There's so much in you. I can remember being a high school student. 11th grade, 12th grade, we were supposed to go to the counselor of the high school, and we were supposed to have this conversation about what you want to do with your life. Now, school at that point wasn't really that important to me. It just wasn't, for whatever reason. And so, but I knew whenever you talk to an adult, just like they know today how to talk to us and say, yes, ma'am. No, they know how to play the game. I knew how to play the game. And so I sat in front of this man, and he said, young man, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, I want to go to school. I had not thought about school, but I knew that's what you were supposed to say. And then he took the time to look at my records. He looked at me. Said, young man, I don't think that's what you want to do. You really don't want to go to school. You want to learn a trade. And so 3 months after graduating from high school, I was working at Westinghouse Corporation. And my job all day long, anybody in here ever worked at Westinghouse Corporation? They had 2 assembly lines, line 1, line 2. My job all day long, as refrigerators would come down the assembly line, my job was to lift and turn a refrigerator for 8 hours a day. At the end of the first day, I slid to the cafeteria, put my head on the desk, fell asleep, and when I woke up, I said, I don't care what that man said, I'm going to school. I cannot do this for 40 years. I can't do it. He didn't think I had the ability, intellectually, to go to school. In my PhD program, I had a 3.62. And so I tell my students today, I don't care who tells you what, don't let anybody define you, because they will always define you too small. In the next 30 days, this is my challenge to you. Try to find a place where you're not one of those that says the avalanche isn't my responsibility. That what's happening in my company is not my responsibility. That what's happening in my neighborhood is not my responsibility. That's what is happening in my country, not my responsibility. Try to find an area where you might not be an elected official. You might not even have title or position. You might not even have the power that you would want, but you do want to make a difference. The last thing I'd like to do is leave you with just a little saying that suggests that we can make a difference. And the author of this poem says that no matter what it is you want in life, if you want career, okay. If you want to make a difference in your society, okay. If you want to move an individual or an organization from good to great, okay. No matter what it is in life, no matter what it is in life, if you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, work day and night for it, give up your time and your peace and your sleep for it. If all life seems useless and empty without it, and all that you dream and you scheme is about it, if you will gladly sweat for it, fret for it, plan for it, lose all fear of opposition for it, if you will simply go after that thing that you want, with all of your capacity, strength, and sagacity, faith, hope, and confidence, stern pertinacity, if neither cold poverty, famished, and gaunt, nor sickness, nor pain of body or brain can turn you away from that thing that you want, if dogged and grim you besiege and beset it, with the help of God, my friend, you'll get it. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.